The massive screens in Times Square flickered to life at exactly 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every television, smartphone, computer monitor, and digital billboard across Earth displayed the same image, a crystalline chamber floating in the void of space, populated by beings that defied human imagination. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood frozen in her office at the United Nations building, watching the broadcast with growing dread. 3 months ago, humanity had received its first communication from what called itself the Cosmic Council, a governing body that claimed authority over this sector of the galaxy. The message had been simple. Earth would be evaluated for membership in the galactic community. Today was Judgment Day. The lead figure in the crystal chamber resembled a tree made of liquid mercury, its branches shifting and flowing as it spoke through universal translation technology that made every human hear it in their native language. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth, Sol, 3. Population, 8,700,400,216. Sarah's blood ran cold. The count was accurate to the individual. This council has observed your species for the duration of your evaluation period. The Mercury tree continued. Your technological advancement rate is adequate. Your artistic expressions show promise. However, your species demonstrates a fundamental flaw that renders you incompatible with civilized galactic society. In the chamber, other council members materialized, beings of pure energy, creatures that looked like living crystals, entities that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Each one radiated an authority that made Sarah feel like an ant being studied under a microscope. Humans display excessive emotional attachment to individual life, announced another council member, this one appearing as a floating geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. You prioritize the survival of single individuals over logical resource allocation. This inefficiency has been observed in your conflicts, your medical practices, and your social structures. Sarah grabbed her secure phone, speed dialing the Secretary General. The line was busy. Every line in the building would be busy now. The Mercury tree's form shifted, becoming more solid and imposing. To demonstrate the logical approach to resource management, this council will provide a practical lesson. 50,000 human lives will be terminated to illustrate the proper valuation of individual existence within a galactic context. The view shifted to show a bustling city Sarah recognized as Mumbai. The camera, or whatever alien technology was capturing this, zoomed in to show people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that they were being broadcast to the entire planet. No, 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 Sarah whispered, pressing against the window of her office. This isn't real. This can't be real. But it was real. The energy reading from the Council's ships, massive vessels that had appeared overnight in Earth's orbit, were off the charts. Humanity's most advanced satellites had barely detected them until they chose to reveal themselves. The selected population density provides optimal demonstration value. The geometric entity continued. Observe the efficiency of proper resource management. A beam of purple light descended from orbit, striking the heart of Mumbai. It wasn't explosive or dramatic like in human science fiction. The light simply touched the city, and 50,000 people stopped existing. No destruction, no rubble, no screams. One moment they were there, going about their lives, and the next moment they were gone, leaving only empty spaces where they had been standing. The silence that followed was deafening. Even through the screen, Sarah could feel the weight of 50,000 lives snuffed out in an instant, as easily as turning off a light switch. The broadcast continued without acknowledging the magnitude of what had just occurred. This demonstration illustrates the logical approach to population management. The Mercury tree explained, its tone remaining perfectly neutral. Individual human lives hold minimal value when measured against galactic resource allocation principles. Your species must evolve beyond its primitive attachment to single-life preservation to join civilized society. President Martinez appeared on split screen from the White House Situation Room, his face pale but determined. This is an act of war against humanity, he declared, though his voice shook slightly. We demand immediate. The transmission cut off. The president's image vanished, replaced by the council chamber. Human authority figures may not interrupt council proceedings, the geometric entity stated. Your evaluation continues. Sarah realized she was holding her breath. Around the world, 8 billion people were watching their species being judged by being so advanced that humanity's entire nuclear arsenal probably couldn't scratch their ships. Additional demonstrations may be necessary if humans fail to comprehend the lesson. The Mercury tree continued. Your species has 72 hours to prove you can adopt logical resource management principles. You must voluntarily eliminate 1% of your population, approximately 87 million individuals, and do so according to efficiency standards we will provide. The ultimatum hit like a physical blow. Sarah sank into her chair, mind reeling. The council wasn't just demonstrating their power. They were demanding humanity commit genocide against itself as the price of admission to galactic society. Failure to comply will result in complete population adjustment, the geometric entity added. Your species will be reduced to a sustainable population of 50 million individuals, selected according to optimal genetic and intellectual parameters. The crystal chamber began to fade, but the Mercury tree's final words echoed clearly. You have been given a gift, the opportunity to prove your species can evolve beyond primitive emotional attachment. Use this time wisely. The broadcast ended, leaving every screen on Earth displaying a countdown timer, 71:59:58. 71:59:57, 71:59:56. Sarah's phone exploded with incoming calls. Every government on Earth would be in emergency session within the hour. Military commanders would be calculating impossible odds. Scientists would be desperately searching for some weapon, some defense, some hope against beings who could erase 50,000 people as casually as deleting files from a computer. But Sarah knew something the council didn't understand, something their logical resource management couldn't account for. She had seen human history, not just the wars and conflicts they had criticized, but the other side. The medics who ran into gunfire to save wounded soldiers. The teachers who spent their own money to feed hungry students. The strangers who pulled people from burning cars. The parents who sacrificed everything for their children. The council called it a flaw, humanity's excessive attachment to individual life. They saw it as primitive inefficiency. Sarah saw it as humanity's greatest strength. She picked up her phone and began making calls, not to world leaders or military commanders, but to someone else entirely. Dr. James Wright, director of the International Space Station. If humanity was going to respond to this ultimatum, they needed to understand what they were truly facing. James, it's Sarah. Did you see the broadcast? The whole crew saw it. Wright's voice was grim. Sarah, we've got 27 alien vessels in orbit around Earth. They're massive. Each one is larger than Manhattan. Our instruments can barely register their energy signatures. What are our options? Wright was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, if they wanted to destroy us, we'd already be gone. The fact that they're giving us an ultimatum means something. Maybe they're not as invulnerable as they want us to think. Sarah felt a spark of hope. What do you mean? Think about it, Wright continued. If they could just eliminate us completely, why the demonstration? Why the ultimatum? Why 72 hours? Beings this advanced don't need to justify their actions to primitives unless... Unless what? Unless they're bound by some kind of rules we don't understand yet. Sarah looked out her window at the chaos erupting in the streets below. Protests, riots, people fleeing cities, others gathering in churches and temples. Humanity was reacting exactly as expected, with emotional, illogical attachment to life. But maybe that wasn't a flaw. Maybe it was exactly what would save them. The countdown timer on her computer screen continued its relentless march. 71:57:23. 71:57:22. 71:57:21. Sarah opened a new file on her computer and began typing. If humanity only had 72 hours, she was going to make sure they counted. The council thought they understood humans, thought they had identified humanity's fatal weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Elena Vasquez burst into the emergency council meeting at the United Nations, her tablet clutched in trembling hands. We've analyzed the energy signature from the Mumbai incident, she announced to the assembled delegates from every nation on Earth. Secretary General Hassan looked up from the chaos of shouting voices and urgent phone calls. What did you find? The beam that eliminated those 50,000 people. It wasn't a weapon in any conventional sense, Elena explained, her voice cutting through the noise. It was a selective matter displacement field. They literally moved those people somewhere else. The room fell silent. Are you saying they're not dead? President Martinez asked via video link from Air Force One. I'm saying we don't know, Elena replied. The energy pattern suggests quantum translocation, not disintegration. They could have been moved to another location, another dimension, or yes, they could have been completely eliminated. Without understanding their technology, we can't tell the difference. Ambassador Chin stood up slowly. It doesn't matter where they are, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. What matters is that the Council has the power to move 50,000 people without warning, without resistance, and without detection until they chose to reveal themselves. Our combined nuclear arsenals couldn't even penetrate their shields, added General Morrison from the Pentagon. Every simulation we've run shows the same result: complete human extinction within minutes of any military action. Then, we surrender, said the French delegate, his face pale. We select 87 million people, and no. Sarah's voice was quiet, but absolute. We don't. The room erupted in arguments, but Sarah continued speaking. I've been analyzing the Council's language, their behavior patterns, the way they structured this ultimatum. Dr. Wright was right. They're bound by rules. What rules? Hassan demanded. Sarah activated the main display, showing her analysis of the broadcast. Look at the phrasing. They call it an evaluation period. They gave us exactly 72 hours. They required a public demonstration before issuing their ultimatum. This isn't random. It's a formal process. A process for what? Martinez asked. Integration into their galactic society, Sarah explained. Think about it. If they just wanted us dead, we'd be dead. If they just wanted our resources, they'd take them. But they're offering us membership, conditional on proving we can adopt their values. Their values include mass murder, General Morrison pointed out. No, Sarah shook her head. Their values include logical resource management. To them, individual lives are just resources to be optimized. They genuinely believe they're offering us an opportunity to evolve. Elena looked up from her tablet. Sarah's right. The translation patterns in their speech show they view this as educational, not punitive. They think they're teaching us. Then, we learn, Hassan said grimly. We find a way to meet their criteria without sacrificing our people. There is no way, the British delegate protested. They want us to eliminate 87 million people. There's no alternative interpretation. Sarah smiled for the first time since the broadcast began. Actually, there is. She pulled up a new document on the display. The Council said we must voluntarily eliminate 1% of your population according to efficiency standards we will provide. They never specified that the elimination had to be permanent. The room went quiet again, but this time it was the silence of people beginning to understand. They used the same energy signature to eliminate people from Mumbai, Sarah continued. If that technology can be replicated or understood, we fake our own deaths, Elena breathed, understanding immediately. We make it look like we've eliminated 87 million people, but we actually relocate them. But where? Martinez asked. And how? We don't have their technology. Sarah's smile widened. We don't need their technology. We just need them to think we're using their logic. She pulled up satellite images of remote areas across the globe, underground facilities, isolated islands, decommissioned military bases. We have 72 hours to create the greatest magic trick in human history. We're going to make 87 million people disappear in a way that satisfies the Council's efficiency standards while keeping every single one of them alive. The logistics alone would be impossible, General Morrison protested. Not if every nation participates, Hassan realized. Not if we use every military, every transportation network, every resource on the planet. Sarah nodded. Operation Hidden Sanctuary. We select the 87 million people according to the Council's efficiency standards, but we interpret those standards in our favor. Volunteers, people already in remote locations, individuals who want to participate in humanity's greatest act of defiance. And if the Council detects what we're doing, the French delegate asked, then we all die together, Sarah admitted. But if we succeed, We prove that humanity's flaw, our attachment to individual life, is actually our greatest strength. We show them that we can meet their logical standards while refusing to abandon our values. Elena was already running calculations on her tablet. We'd need to move approximately 120,000 people per hour for 72 hours. It's theoretically possible if we use every available aircraft, ship, train, and vehicle on the planet. The coordination required would be unprecedented, General Morrison added, but his tone was shifting from skeptical to intrigued. So was D-Day, Sarah replied. So was the moon landing. So was every moment in history when humanity chose to do the impossible rather than accept the unacceptable. Hassan stood up slowly. All in favor of Operation Hidden Sanctuary? Every hand in the room rose. The countdown timer on the wall display continued its march. 71:42:15. 71:42:14. 71:42:13. Sarah looked around the room at representatives from every nation on Earth, all united for perhaps the first time in human history. The Cosmic Council thought they understood humanity's weakness. They were about to discover that what they saw as weakness was actually humanity's superpower. The greatest magic trick in human history was about to begin. Major Lisa Santos stood in the command center of Cheyenne Mountain, watching the most complex military operation in human history unfold on dozens of screens. 60 hours remained on the countdown, and Operation Hidden Sanctuary was in full swing across every continent. Status report from Section 7 called out Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez from his station. Transport Alpha 77 has cleared the Aleutian Islands with 1,200 volunteers, Rodriguez reported. They're en route to Sanctuary Site Bravo 4 in the Mariana Trench Research Facility. Lisa nodded, marking another successful group relocation on her masterboard. The Mariana Trench facility had been hastily expanded from a small research station to a massive underwater city capable of housing 50,000 people. Similar expansions were happening simultaneously across the globe, in abandoned subway systems beneath major cities, in vast cave networks in the Himalayas, in decommissioned oil platforms converted into floating cities. "Ma'am, we've got an issue with Transport Gamma 9, another technician called out. Mechanical failure over the Pacific. They're carrying 800 volunteers to Sanctuary Site Charlie 2. Lisa's stomach tightened. Every person who couldn't reach their sanctuary site was a person who might be detected by the Council's technology when the final count occurred. Dispatch rescue ships immediately. Get me alternative transport packages Delta 3 through Delta 7. The operation required precision that made NASA launches look simple. 87 million people had to disappear from the global population count simultaneously at exactly the 72-hour mark. But they also had to survive, remain hidden, and eventually be able to return when humanity proved its point to the Council. Dr. Yuki Tanaka burst into the command center, her lab coat stained with coffee and her hair disheveled from 3 straight days of research. "Lisa, we've got a breakthrough on the energy signature analysis." Lisa turned from her boards. "What kind of breakthrough?" "We've been assuming the Council's technology was beyond our understanding," Yuki explained rapidly. "But Dr. Chun at the Shanghai Institute just identified something crucial. The energy pattern they used on Mumbai. It's based on quantum entanglement principles we actually do understand." "Meaning what?" "Meaning we might be able to create a convincing fake," Yuki said, her eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. "If we can generate a similar energy signature at the moment our people disappear, the Council's sensors might read it as confirmation that we've actually eliminated them using their approved method." Lisa felt a surge of hope. "How close can we get?" "Close enough, maybe. We're retrofitting every major electrical grid on the planet to generate synchronized quantum field pulses. When the time comes, we'll create energy signatures that should mask the actual transportation of our volunteers." The main screen flickered, showing a live feed from Sanctuary Site Alpha 1, a massive complex built into the natural cave systems beneath the Swiss Alps. 25,000 volunteers were already housed there, with more arriving every hour. Similar scenes played out across hidden locations worldwide. "Ma'am," Rodriguez called out urgently. "We're receiving a transmission from the Council." The screen switched to show the crystal chamber in space, with the same alien entities that had delivered the ultimatum. Lisa's blood chilled as the Mercury tree entity began to speak. Human authorities, it announced in that eerily neutral tone. Council sensors have detected significant population movement patterns across your planet. This activity requires clarification. Lisa grabbed the communication device connected to the UN response team. This is Command Central. All units maintain Operational Security Protocol Omega. No acknowledgement of sanctuary operations. On screen, the geometric entity that hurt to look at directly began speaking. Human transportation patterns suggest attempt to relocate population rather than eliminate inefficient individuals. This approach demonstrates continued attachment to primitive life preservation concepts. Lisa held her breath. Had they been discovered already? However, the Mercury tree continued. Council recognizes that human resource management techniques may differ from standard galactic protocols. Compliance will be measured by final population count and energy signature confirmation, not by methodology. The transmission ended abruptly. Lisa exhaled slowly. The Council suspected something, but they weren't stopping the operation. Yet, all stations, this is Command Central, she announced. We have confirmation that the Council is monitoring our activities, but has not determined our true intent. Accelerate all transport operations. We need every volunteer in position within 48 hours. Dr. Yuki was still working frantically on her quantum field calculations. Lisa, I need to tell you something about the energy requirements for our deception. What about them? To generate a convincing signature across all sanctuary sites simultaneously, we'll need to redirect every major power grid on the planet. We're talking about controlled blackouts in major cities, shutdown of non-essential industrial operations, and risk of permanent damage to electrical infrastructure. Lisa stared at her. How much risk? 10% chance of irreversible damage to global power generation capacity. 15% chance of cascade failures that could take months to repair. And if we don't do it, 100% chance that the Council detects our deception and eliminates all 8 billion of us. Lisa nodded grimly. Those are acceptable odds. Make it happen. The next 36 hours blurred together in a frenzy of transportation coordination, logistics management, and careful communication with the 87 million volunteers who had agreed to participate in humanity's greatest gamble. The volunteers came from every walk of life. Scientists who wanted to continue research in hidden laboratories. Families who chose to stay together rather than risk separation. Military personnel trained for long-term isolation missions. Artists and teachers who saw the sanctuary sites as opportunities to preserve human culture in case the plan failed. But, perhaps most remarkably, they included people who simply refused to let the Council's ultimatum succeed without a fight. Retirees who had lived full lives, but wanted to contribute to humanity's survival. Young adults who saw the operation as the adventure of a lifetime. Parents who wanted their children to grow up in a world where humans didn't surrender their values to alien demands. Transport status report. Lisa called out as the countdown reached 24 hours. Sanctuary Site Alpha 1 through Alpha 15 at full capacity, Rodriguez reported. Sanctuary Site Bravo 1 through Bravo 12 still accepting transports. Sanctuary Site Charlie 1 through Charlie 8 report minor overcrowding, but manageable conditions. Lisa studied the global map showing volunteer locations. Green dots represented people successfully relocated to sanctuary sites. Yellow dots showed people in transit. Red dots indicated people still waiting for transport. There were still too many red dots. Ma'am, we've got a communication from the Australian Transport Division, another technician announced. Cyclone conditions in the Coral Sea are preventing final transports to Sanctuary Site Delta 7. They've got 12,000 volunteers stranded on the mainland. Lisa felt the weight of 12,000 lives in her decision. Weather conditions? Clearing in 18 hours. But that's 6 hours past our deadline. Negative. We don't leave anyone behind. Redirect transport packages Echo 1 through Echo 5 from completed sites to provide emergency evacuation. Use the underground facility network in the outback if necessary. Dr. Yuki appeared at Lisa's shoulder. The quantum field generators are online across all major grid systems. We'll be ready for synchronized activation at T-minus 60 minutes. What about the energy signature analysis? Will the Council be convinced? Yuki hesitated. Our best simulations suggest an 87% probability of successful deception. The quantum entanglement patterns should match their technology closely enough to register as legitimate eliminations. And the 13% failure probability? Complete exposure of the operation, followed by immediate council retaliation. Lisa looked around the command center at hundreds of people who had worked nonstop for 3 days to coordinate the most ambitious deception in human history. Military personnel, scientists, logistics specialists, communication technicians, all working together because they believed humanity's values were worth fighting for. All stations, this is Command Central, she announced. We are at T-minus 12 hours and counting. Final transport operations are in progress. Sanctuary sites report 94% capacity with remaining volunteers en route. The main screen displayed the countdown. 11:47:23. 11:47:22. 11:47:21. Ma'am, Rodriguez called out. Message from Sanctuary Site Alpha 1. The screen switched to show Dr. James Mitchell, the site coordinator, speaking from deep within the Swiss mountain complex. Command Central, this is Alpha 1. All 25,000 volunteers are secure and ready for final phase operations. Morale is high. Everyone understands what we're attempting. Lisa nodded. Acknowledged, Alpha 1. Maintain communication protocol until T-0. Similar reports came in from sanctuary sites around the world. The underwater cities reported successful adaptation to marine environment living. The cave systems confirmed adequate life support and supplies for extended isolation. The converted oil platforms had established sustainable fishing and water purification operations. Humanity hadn't just hidden 87 million people. They had created entirely new communities, each one designed to prove that human civilization could thrive even under impossible conditions. Dr. Tanaka, final systems check on quantum field generators, Lisa ordered. Yuki moved to her control station, fingers dancing across displays showing power grids from every continent. Power grid synchronization at 98%. Quantum field coherence within acceptable parameters. Energy signature simulation running at optimal levels. Transportation Division, final status report. Last transport convoy cleared Madagascar 30 minutes ago, Rodriguez announced. All volunteers are either in position at sanctuary sites or en route with arrival times before T-2 hours. Lisa allowed herself a moment of cautious optimism. Against impossible odds, humanity had managed to relocate 87 million people while maintaining the illusion of cooperation with the Council's demands. But the hardest part was still ahead. In 11 hours, every quantum field generator on Earth would activate simultaneously, creating energy signatures designed to convince the Council that humanity had eliminated 1% of its population. The sanctuary sites would initiate complete communication blackouts, making 87 million people effectively invisible to Council sensors. Either the deception would work, and humanity would prove that their values didn't have to be sacrificed for galactic membership, or the Council would see through the illusion, and 8 billion people would pay the price for humanity's defiance. Lisa looked at the countdown timer. 10:23:45. 10:23:44. 10:23:43. All stations, prepare for final phase operations, she announced. In 10 hours, we find out if humanity's greatest weakness is actually our greatest strength. The command center fell silent except for the soft hum of computers and the steady countdown of what might be humanity's last stand. The moment arrived with the silence of inevitability. In command centers across the globe, technicians watched their displays as the countdown reached T-60 seconds. 87 million people held their breath in hidden sanctuaries beneath mountains, under oceans, and in the most remote corners of Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the primary control room of the European Space Agency, her hand hovering over the master activation switch for the quantum field generators. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the Council's massive ships hanging in Earth's orbit like dark monuments to alien superiority. Global synchronization confirmed, announced the voice of Major Santos from Cheyenne Mountain. All sanctuary sites report final preparations complete. Quantum field generators standing by. Elena's throat felt dry. In 30 seconds, humanity would either pull off the greatest deception in history or doom their species to extinction. There was no middle ground. T-30, Santos continued. All sites confirm ready status. Elena looked at the screens showing sanctuary locations around the world. In the Swiss cave systems, Dr. Mitchell was coordinating the final shutdown of external communications. In the Mariana Trench facility, marine engineers were activating deep-sea camouflage systems. On converted oil platforms, volunteers were preparing to simulate complete power loss. T-20 seconds. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. At precisely T-0, every major power grid on Earth would redirect energy into quantum field generators, creating massive energy signatures that should mimic the Council's elimination technology. Simultaneously, all sanctuary sites would go completely dark, no communications, no detectable energy signatures, no sign that 87 million people continued to exist. T-10, 9, 8, 7. Elena's finger moved to the activation switch. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Elena slammed down the switch. Across the planet, power grids redirected massive amounts of energy into hastily constructed quantum field generators. The night sky lit up with aurora-like displays as electromagnetic fields interacted with Earth's atmosphere. In major cities, lights dimmed as power was diverted to the deception operation. Simultaneously, 87 million people vanished from all detectable sensors. The sanctuary sites activated sophisticated electromagnetic shielding, making them invisible to orbital scans. Underground facilities went into complete isolation mode. Underwater cities activated noise-dampening systems that made them undetectable to sonar. The energy signatures were enormous, visible from space as cascading waves of quantum distortion that rippled across Earth's surface like aurora storms. Elena held her breath, watching her instruments register the massive energy expenditure. The quantum field generators were working perfectly, creating exactly the type of energy signature the Council had used to eliminate people from Mumbai. Command Central, this is ESA Primary, she reported. Quantum field activation successful. Energy signature generation at optimal parameters. Acknowledged, ESA Primary. All sites report successful activation. Sanctuary sites have gone dark as planned. Now came the hardest part, waiting to see if the Council would accept their deception. High above Earth, aboard the lead Council vessel, the Mercury Tree entity observed the energy displays with what might have been satisfaction. Its companion entities gathered around the observation chamber, studying readings that showed massive population elimination events across the planet. Energy signatures confirm proper elimination methodology, reported the geometric entity, its pattern shifting to indicate analysis mode. Human population has decreased by precisely 87 million individuals. Elimination events show quantum displacement patterns consistent with approved Council technology, added a crystalline being that sparkled with internal light. Humans have successfully adopted logical resource management principles. The Mercury Tree's form flowed into a more upright configuration. Prepare to broadcast evaluation results to the human population. But one entity remained quiet, a being that appeared to exist partially in multiple dimensions, its form constantly shifting between visible reality and something else entirely. Council colleagues, it finally spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that suggested vast intelligence. Recommend additional analysis before final evaluation. Elaborate, dimensional overseer Zeth, the Mercury Tree responded. Human behavioral patterns during elimination period show anomalous characteristics, Zeth explained. Population movement preceding eliminations was unprecedented in scale and organization. Energy expenditure for elimination events exceeded efficient parameters by factor of 37. The crystalline being's light flickered. Explain significance. Humans expended vast resources to achieve elimination requirements, Zeth continued. This suggests either fundamental misunderstanding of efficient resource management or deliberate waste of resources for unknown purpose. Elena watched her monitors nervously as the energy signatures from the quantum field generators began to fade. The massive power expenditure couldn't be maintained indefinitely without risking permanent damage to Earth's electrical infrastructure. Dr. Vasquez, her assistant Dr. Patel called out urgently. We're detecting active scanning from the Council ships. Deep-range sensors are sweeping the entire planet. Elena's heart sank. The Council was conducting verification scans. Major Santos, this is ESA Primary. She spoke into her communicator. Council is running verification scans. Are the sanctuary sites prepared for deep-range detection attempts? Negative, Dr. Vasquez. Our electromagnetic shielding is designed for standard orbital sensors, not the type of advanced scanning the Council capabilities suggest. Elena stared at her displays showing the Council ships directing increasingly intense scan beams toward Earth. How long before they detect the sanctuary sites? Unknown. Could be minutes, could be hours. Depends on the sophistication of their technology. Elena made a decision that could doom humanity or save it. All stations, this is ESA Primary. Initiate Emergency Protocol 7. Emergency Protocol 7 was the contingency plan nobody wanted to use. It involved activating every nuclear reactor on Earth simultaneously, creating massive electromagnetic interference that would make detailed scanning impossible. The risk was enormous. Potential radiation exposure for millions of people, possible reactor failures, and definitive proof to the Council that humanity was attempting deception. But it might buy enough time for the sanctuary sites to implement deeper camouflage measures. Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Patel said urgently, "Are you certain about Protocol 7? Do it," Elena ordered. "If the Council detects our deception before we can prove our point, everyone dies anyway." Across the globe, nuclear facilities received emergency activation codes. Reactor outputs increased to maximum safe levels, creating electromagnetic fields that would interfere with detailed scanning. The risk was calculated, temporary increase in background radiation in exchange for protection against Council detection. The effect was immediate. Elena's displays showed the Council scan beams becoming diffused and scattered as they encountered the electromagnetic interference from hundreds of nuclear facilities operating at maximum output. Council scanning efficiency reduced by 78%, Dr. Patel reported. But, Dr. Vasquez, we can only maintain this level of nuclear output for 6 hours before risking cascade failures. Elena nodded grimly. 6 hours should be enough. Either the Council accepts our demonstration by then, or... She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone in the command center knew what the alternative was. High above Earth, Dimensional Overseer Zeth was growing increasingly suspicious. Council colleagues, human energy patterns now show nuclear reactor activation across entire planet. This level of electromagnetic interference serves no logical purpose unless humans are attempting to prevent detailed scanning. The Mercury trees form began shifting into a more aggressive configuration. Elaborate your concerns, Overseer Zeth. Probability calculation suggests 93% chance that humans have not eliminated 87 million individuals as required, Zeth announced. Probability suggests instead that humans have relocated individuals and are using technological deception to simulate compliance. The crystalline being's light flared brighter. If accurate, this represents fundamental rejection of Council authority and logical resource management principles. Recommendation? The geometric entity asked. Immediate planetary surface scan using Phase 7 penetration technology, Zeth replied. This will reveal true population distribution regardless of electromagnetic interference. The Mercury tree hesitated. Phase 7 scanning requires significant energy expenditure and may cause damage to planetary electromagnetic field. Standard Council protocols require justification for such measures. Justification exists if humans are attempting species-level deception of Council authority, Zeth argued. Precedent established in 17 previous evaluations where species attempted compliance simulation. And the results of those precedent cases? The crystalline being asked. Complete population elimination and planetary resource claim by Council authority, Zeth replied without emotion. Elena watched in growing horror as the Council ships began powering up for what could only be an advanced scanning attempt. The energy signatures were unlike anything human technology had ever detected, raw power that made nuclear reactors look like flashlights. Major Santos, this is ESA Primary. Council is preparing advanced scanning protocols. Our electromagnetic interference won't be sufficient. Understood, Dr. Vasquez. All sanctuary sites are implementing final camouflage measures. Elena knew those measures were desperate attempts. Deeper underground movement, activation of mineral-based shielding, scattering of personnel to smaller groups. But, against technology that could casually eliminate 50,000 people with pinpoint precision, human camouflage efforts seemed pathetically inadequate. Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Patel announced, his voice tight with controlled panic. Council ships are directing Phase 7 scanning arrays toward Earth. Energy signature suggests penetration capability through several kilometers of solid rock. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the 87 million volunteers who had trusted humanity's leaders to find a way to preserve both their lives and human values. In hidden sanctuaries around the world, people were waiting to learn whether their sacrifice would save their species or merely delay the inevitable. The Council had given humanity 72 hours to prove they could adopt logical resource management principles. Humanity had responded by proving they would never abandon their commitment to preserving every possible life, even at enormous cost and risk. In approximately 3 minutes, the Council would learn whether that commitment was humanity's fatal flaw or their species' salvation. The Phase 7 scanning beams began descending toward Earth, carrying with them the final judgment of human civilization. The Phase 7 scanning beams struck Earth with the force of controlled lightning. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched in fascination and terror as the Council's advanced sensors penetrated deep into the planet's crust, mapping every underground facility, cave system, and hidden sanctuary with ruthless precision. Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Patel announced, his voice barely steady. Council sensors have penetrated all electromagnetic interference. They're detecting everything. Elena's hands trembled as she watched the displays show Council scanning beams revealing sanctuary sites across the globe. The Swiss mountain complexes, the Mariana Trench facilities, the converted oil platforms, the cave networks in the Himalayas. Every location where humanity had hidden their 87 million volunteers was being systematically exposed. Major Santos, this is ESA Primary. Elena spoke into her communicator. Council has detected all sanctuary sites. Repeat, our deception has been exposed. The response from Cheyenne Mountain was grim. Acknowledged, Dr. Vasquez. All sites report Council scanning contact. We estimate complete population mapping within 7 minutes. Elena stared at the orbital displays showing the massive Council ships. Their energy signatures were building toward what could only be preparation for retaliation. Humanity had gambled everything on a deception that had just failed catastrophically. But then, something unexpected happened. High above Earth, in the crystal chamber of the lead Council ship, Dimensional Overseer Zeth was analyzing scan results with growing confusion. Council colleagues, it announced, Phase 7 scanning reveals anomalous data that requires interpretation. The Mercury tree entity flowed into an attentive configuration. Clarify anomalous data. Scanning confirms presence of 87 million humans in concealed locations as predicted, Zeth explained. However, analysis of human resource expenditure during concealment operation presents unprecedented patterns. The geometric entity's pattern shifted to indicate interest. Elaborate. Zeth's multidimensional form flickered as it processed data. Humans expended approximately 47% of total planetary transportation resources to relocate individuals. Energy expenditure exceeded efficient parameters by factor of 53. Global infrastructure modification was accomplished in 71 hours with coordination involving every human governmental authority. The crystalline being's light pulsed thoughtfully. These expenditure levels suggest significant inefficiency. Negative, Zeth replied, surprising the other Council members. These expenditure levels suggest something unprecedented in Council evaluation history. Elena couldn't understand what was happening aboard the Council ships, but the scanning beams had stopped intensifying. Instead, they seemed to be conducting detailed analysis of something beyond just population locations. Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Patel said urgently, Council scanning patterns have changed. They're no longer mapping sanctuary sites. They're analyzing everything. Power grid modifications, transportation networks, resource allocation patterns. What are they looking for? I don't know, but the scan intensity suggests they're studying our entire deception operation in detail. Aboard the Council vessel, Zeth continued its analysis. Council colleagues recommend reviewing human deception methodology in context of resource management principles. Explain relevance. The Mercury Tree demanded. Human deception required coordination of 8 billion individuals across 207 separate governmental authorities, Zeth reported. Transportation of 87 million individuals was accomplished without casualty loss, with provision of life support resources, and with establishment of sustainable living conditions for extended duration. The geometric entity's pattern became more complex. Relevance to resource management evaluation. Humans demonstrated ability to coordinate planetary-scale resource allocation with zero individual loss, Zeth explained. This represents efficiency level unprecedented in Council evaluation records. The room, if it could be called a room, fell silent. Additionally, Zeth continued, human deception operation required voluntary participation of 87 million individuals willing to accept personal risk and hardship to preserve species values. This level of individual commitment to collective goals represents coordination efficiency beyond standard galactic parameters. Elena's communicator crackled with an incoming message from Major Santos. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving a new transmission from the Council. They're requesting a conversation. A conversation? Direct communication with human leadership. They want to discuss our resource management demonstration. Elena felt a flutter of something she hadn't dared hope for. The possibility that humanity's deception might not have failed after all. The main screen in the ESA control room activated, showing the Council chamber. But this time, the alien entities seemed different, less imposing, more curious. Human leadership. The Mercury Tree began. Council analysis of your compliance attempt requires clarification. Elena found herself speaking before she realized it. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, European Space Agency. What clarification do you require? Your species was instructed to eliminate 87 million individuals according to efficiency principles, the geometric entity stated. Instead, you relocated these individuals using resource expenditure that exceeded efficient parameters by significant margins. Elena felt her heart pounding. That's correct. Explain logical justification for this approach, Zeth requested. Elena looked around the control room at her colleagues. Then, made the decision that would define humanity's future. We don't have logical justification. We couldn't eliminate 87 million people because we believe every individual life has value that can't be measured in resource allocation terms. The Council entities seem to consider this. Your deception required coordination of global transportation networks, modification of planetary power grid systems, construction of life support facilities in extreme environments, and voluntary participation of 8 billion individuals, the Mercury Tree observed. Resource cost exceeded elimination requirements by factor of 47. Yes, Elena admitted. Yet your species chose this approach despite acknowledged inefficiency? Elena straightened her shoulders. We chose this approach because efficiency isn't our highest value. Preserving life is. The crystalline being's light flickered rapidly. Council records indicate no previous evaluation species has demonstrated capacity for planetary-scale resource coordination while maintaining zero individual casualty rate. Zeth's multidimensional form stabilized into something that might have indicated satisfaction. Human resource management demonstrates principles Council evaluation protocols did not anticipate. What principles? Elena asked, hardly daring to hope. Efficiency maximization through preservation of all individual resources rather than elimination of perceived inefficient resources, Zeth explained. Your species treated individual lives as resources requiring optimization rather than resources requiring elimination. The geometric entity's pattern shifted to what might have been approval. This approach suggests advanced resource management philosophy. Elena felt dizzy. Are you saying our attachment to individual life is efficient resource management? Affirmative, the Mercury Tree replied. Your demonstration proved capacity for coordination, sacrifice, innovation, and collective action that exceeds standard galactic efficiency parameters. Individual life preservation drove optimization rather than preventing it. Major Santos' voice came through the communicator. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving reports from all sanctuary sites. Council scanning has stopped. They're withdrawing their skin beams. Elena looked at the displays showing the massive council ships. Their energy signatures were indeed powering down from aggressive scanning to what appeared to be standard orbital positioning. Human leadership, Zeth announced. Council evaluation results require formal presentation. The view shifted to show all council entities arranged in what was clearly a formal judgment configuration. Species designation, human. Evaluation period, 72 hours. Test parameter, adoption of logical resource management principles. Elena held her breath. Evaluation result, pass. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Pass. Human species demonstrated advanced resource management capabilities through preservation and optimization of all individual resources, the Mercury tree explained. Coordination efficiency, innovation capacity, and collective sacrifice exceeded council projection parameters. Your species approached logical resource management from perspective council protocols had not previously encountered, Zeth added. Individual life preservation as foundation for efficiency rather than obstacle to efficiency. Elena felt tears streaming down her face. Around the control room, her colleagues were embracing, cheering, and trying not to collapse from relief. What happens now? Elena managed to ask. Council extends invitation for humanity to join Galactic community as junior member species, the geometric entity announced. Humans will serve probationary period of 1 galactic cycle to demonstrate sustainable application of resource management principles. And our people in the sanctuary sites. Human concealment operation may conclude, the Mercury tree replied. Council recognizes 87 million individuals as successfully managed resources requiring return to optimal planetary distribution. Elena laughed through her tears. You're telling us to bring our people home? Affirmative. Humans demonstrated that home is where individual resources achieve optimal efficiency. The communication ended, leaving Elena staring at screens that showed the Council ships beginning to move into higher orbit, no longer threatening, but maintaining observation position. All stations, this is ESA Primary, Elena announced, her voice carrying to command centers around the world. Council evaluation is complete. Humanity has passed. All sanctuary sites are authorized to begin reintegration operations immediately. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the globe, 87 million people began the journey home from their hidden sanctuaries. Transportation networks that had been used to hide them now worked to bring them back to the surface, to their families, to the world they had helped save. Dr. Mitchell's voice came through from the Swiss Mountain Complex. ESA Primary. This is Sanctuary Site Alpha 1. 25,000 volunteers ready for transport home. Everyone's crying and laughing at the same time. Elena smiled, wiping away her own tears. Acknowledged, Alpha 1. Welcome back to the world. Humanity had faced its first test as a potential galactic species. They had been asked to prove they could adopt logical resource management principles. Instead, they had proven that their principles were logical after all. 6 months after humanity's acceptance into the galactic community, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed orbital diplomatic station, looking out at Earth through reinforced windows designed to withstand the vacuum of space. The Council ships still maintained their positions in high orbit, but they no longer felt threatening. They had become symbols of humanity's new future among the stars. The reintegration of 87 million people had taken 3 weeks and had fundamentally changed human civilization. The sanctuary sites had been converted into permanent research facilities, underground cities, and deep ocean habitats. What began as hiding places had evolved into humanity's first steps toward truly global infrastructure. Ambassador Chen, Dr. Elena Vasquez approached, carrying a data tablet and wearing the insignia of Director of Interstellar Relations. The Council is requesting another meeting. Sarah turned from the observation window. About what? They want to discuss our anomalous adaptation patterns, Elena replied with a slight smile. Apparently, humanity is developing faster than their models predicted. Sarah followed Elena to the main conference room, where representatives from every nation on Earth participated in humanity's ongoing integration with galactic civilization. The process had been unlike anything the Council had previously experienced. Most species required decades to adapt their social structures to galactic standards. Humanity had done it in 6 months, but not by abandoning their values, by proving their values worked on a galactic scale. The main screen activated, showing the familiar crystal chamber of the lead Council ship. But now, additional entities were present, representatives from 12 other species that comprised the local galactic community. Human leadership, Dimensional Overseer Zeth began. Council convenes to address unprecedented developments in human galactic integration. Sarah straightened. What developments concern the Council? A new entity spoke, one humanity had never seen before. It appeared to be made of flowing liquid starlight and identified itself as Coordinator Prime of the Andromedan Collective. Human species demonstrates adaptation rate exceeding all galactic community precedents. Explain concerns, Sarah requested. The Mercury tree entity flowed into what humanity had learned indicated presentation mode. Standard galactic integration protocols require junior species to adopt established resource management principles over extended adaptation period. Human species has instead modified galactic principles to incorporate human methodologies. Elena leaned forward. Is that problematic? Negative, replied Zeth, causing relief throughout the human delegation. Human modifications demonstrate efficiency improvements across multiple galactic community operational areas. Another entity materialized, a crystalline structure Sarah recognized as representing the silicon consciousness of the Rigel system. Human resource preservation principles have been adopted by 3 Council member species with positive efficiency results. Sarah felt a surge of pride and disbelief. Our principles are spreading to other species. Affirmative, the Starlight entity confirmed. Human demonstration that individual life preservation enhances rather than reduces coordination efficiency has challenged established galactic resource management theory. The geometric entity that had originally judged humanity's fitness shifted into what appeared to be an acknowledgement pattern. Human species has achieved unprecedented galactic community impact within probationary period. Elena exchanged glances with Sarah. What kind of impact? Council evaluation protocols have been modified to include individual life preservation as efficiency metric, Zeth announced. 3 species previously designated as incompatible for galactic membership are being re-evaluated using human-inspired criteria. Sarah's mind reeled. You're saying other species might join the galactic community because of what humanity proved? Correct. Human demonstration that emotional attachment to individual life constitutes advanced resource management principle has revolutionized Council evaluation methodology. The view expanded to show representatives from those 3 species, beings humanity had never encountered before. One resembled a colony organism made of thousands of small creatures moving in perfect coordination. Another appeared to be living crystal formations that communicated through harmonic vibrations. The third looked like floating energy patterns that constantly shifted between different configurations. These species were previously rejected for galactic membership due to inefficient individual preservation behaviors, the Mercury tree explained. Human success with individual preservation methodology has created precedent for alternative efficiency approaches. Sarah realized the magnitude of what was happening. Humanity hadn't just joined the galactic community, they had changed it. The values that the Council had initially seen as primitive flaws were now being recognized as advanced principles that other species could adopt. Ambassador Chan, Elena whispered, we're not just junior members anymore. We're influencing galactic civilization. The silicon consciousness representative spoke with harmonic tones that registered as music to human ears. Human species requests audience with full galactic community regarding resource management revolution. Sarah felt her heart racing. The Council wants us to address the entire galactic community? Affirmative, Zeth confirmed. Human demonstration has attracted attention from galactic community leadership. Requests submitted for human presentation to Galactic Assembly regarding individual life preservation methodology. How many species are we talking about? Elena asked. Galactic Assembly consists of representatives from 1,000 for 173 species across 12 galactic sectors, the Starlight entity replied. Sarah sat back in her chair, overwhelmed. 6 months ago, humanity had been facing extinction. Now they were being asked to teach their values to nearly 1,500 different species across a significant portion of the galaxy. What would this presentation involve? Sarah asked. Human leadership would address Galactic Assembly regarding efficiency principles demonstrated during Council evaluation, the geometric entity explained. Presentation would include methodology for achieving planetary-scale coordination while preserving all individual resources. Elena was frantically taking notes. This is incredible. Sarah, do you understand what they're asking? They want us to teach the galaxy how to care about individual life. The Mercury tree's form shifted to indicate something that might have been satisfaction. Human species has progressed from probationary junior membership to consultation status in 6-month period. This represents unprecedented advancement rate in council records. Sarah looked around the conference room at representatives from every nation on Earth. People who 6 months ago had been preparing for possible extinction were now being asked to help reshape galactic civilization. When would this presentation occur? Sarah asked. Galactic Assembly convenes in 18 Earth months, Zeth replied. Human delegation would require transportation to Assembly coordinates in Sagittarius Sector. Journey duration approximately 4 months using Council transportation technology. Elena nearly dropped her tablet. You're offering to take humans to another part of the galaxy? Affirmative. Human consultation status grants access to Council transportation network and temporary residence rights at Assembly stations. Sarah stood up slowly, feeling the weight of speaking for all humanity. Council, we are honored by this invitation. But we need to understand something. What happened to the 50,000 people from Mumbai? The question that had haunted humanity for 6 months finally received an answer. Mumbai population was relocated to sanctuary facility in parallel dimension for evaluation purposes, Zeth explained. Individuals remain in suspension status pending resolution of human evaluation period. Sarah felt her knees go weak. They're alive. Affirmative. Standard Council protocol maintains evaluation subjects during species assessment period. Human success in evaluation qualifies Mumbai population for reintegration. Elena grabbed Sarah's arm to steady her. 50,000 people are coming home. Council Transportation Division will coordinate Mumbai population return within 48 hours, the Mercury tree confirmed. Individuals experienced no temporal progression during suspension period and will require standard reintegration protocols. The conference room erupted in celebration. Around the world, humanity learned that their first loss to the Council had not been permanent. The 50,000 people who had died on live broadcast were returning home. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes as she addressed the Council. We accept your invitation to present to the Galactic Assembly. Humanity is honored to share what we've learned about the value of individual life. Preparation protocols will be transmitted to human leadership, Zeth announced. Council notes that human species continues to exceed evaluation parameters even during acceptance period. As the transmission ended, Sarah looked out at Earth through the observation windows. The planet looked the same as it had 6 months ago, but everything had changed. Humanity had faced judgment from beings so advanced they seemed like gods, and had emerged not just as survivors, but as teachers. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined Sarah at the observation window. Do you think we're ready for this? Teaching 1,500 species about human values. Sarah smiled, thinking about 87 million volunteers who had risked everything rather than allow their species to compromise its principles. Elena, we spent 72 hours proving that humanity's greatest strength is our refusal to treat individual life as expendable. If we can teach that to 1,500 species across the galaxy, we might actually make the universe a better place, Elena finished. Below them, Earth continued its rotation, home to 8 billion people who had chosen to value every single life. Above them, the stars waited with civilizations that had never considered that such values might be not just moral, but efficient. Humanity's real journey was just beginning. 3 weeks later, the first group of returning volunteers from the Mumbai incident stepped out of Council transport vessels onto Earth's soil. Their families waited with flowers, tears, and celebrations that lasted for days. The technology that had seemed like death had actually been salvation, and humanity's first lesson in how much they still had to learn about the galaxy they had joined. But they had already taught the galaxy something invaluable in return, that the greatest efficiency came not from optimizing resources by eliminating the weak, but by finding ways to make everyone stronger together. In 18 months, humanity would carry that message to the Galactic Assembly. They would stand before 1,500 species and explain that their attachment to individual life wasn't a flaw to be overcome, but a strength to be embraced. And the galaxy would never be the same.